In an instant, your life could be changed forever because of a split-second decision that you make. How do we avoid making split-second decisions that could have potentially devastating consequences for the rest of our lives? If you want to hear what I have to say on this topic, then keep watching because I'm going to talk about that right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, My Extraordinary Ordinary. My name is Danielle and today I want to talk to you about the hidden dangers of making those split-second decisions and how they can potentially impact your life for the rest of your life, sometimes with very damaging or negative consequences. And I want to talk about how we can avoid that. Now, normally the content on my channel does focus on being positive and uplifting and encouraging and helping you be the best version of yourself you can be, physically, emotionally, and mentally. But I also like to focus my content on helping you be mindful about things that could be negative or dangerous or devastating to you and how to avoid those things so that you can be the best version of yourself you can be. So if you like that kind of content, then you're going to love it on my channel. Please hit the subscribe button down below and ring the bell so you never miss any video uploads. Now, the inspiration for this video really comes from watching another YouTube video by a YouTuber named Christina Randall, and I was watching her channel. In this particular video, she posted a little over a year ago. This is a true story that happened in May of 2020. I'm not going to go into the details of the story. I will link it below if you do want to watch the video for yourself. But basically, it's a story of two young guys in their mid-20s who were YouTubers. I didn't recognize them, but apparently they were both really well-known YouTubers, and they were loved by a lot of people. But basically, one of the guys, Corey, was turning 25 and wanted to celebrate a birthday with his friend Daniel, and they got into a car together after they'd both been drinking, and they got into a bad car accident, and unfortunately Corey was killed. And what ended up happening to Daniel was that he was charged with second-degree murder and sent to jail. I don't know the outcome of what's happened since then because this was posted over a year ago, and this incident happened a little over a year ago, but that was what Christina's video talked about. Now, I was not aware of this, but apparently in some states in the country where I live, if you're committing a crime and somebody dies, you can be charged with murder. And that can be any crime: being intoxicated while you're driving, speeding, whatever it might be, running a stop sign. So it can be something that is a minimal crime level, but as long as it's considered a crime, if somebody dies, you could be charged with murder in some states in the U.S. Now, the thing about this story that saddens me the most, other than the fact that Corey died due to the car accident, was the fact that these two young men were friends. Can you imagine being the driver and knowing that your friend died because you were behind the wheel? Just the guilt of that alone would eat me up inside. I don't even know, how I would be able to handle something like that. That would be so hard. But knowing that he's got to live with this for the rest of his life and then potentially have this murder charge on top of it and deal with that is horrendous, is incredible. And it all happened because a split-second decision was made instead of a well-thought-out decision, weighing the consequences of them both getting into a car, knowing that they had both been drinking and were intoxicated. That's just one example of how a split-second decision can really end up damaging or destroying your life. Now, before I go on, I do realize there are times in our lives when we are called and we do need to make those split-second decisions. We may be in a situation where someone we love or ourselves might be in danger and we have to react immediately and make a split-second decision. We might be in a situation where we are potentially a witness to a crime and we have to make a decision there. We might be in a situation where there is a natural disaster or something else going on that we might be called to either help out with that or not help out with that. And what do we do in that instant? In that instant, we're called to make that split-second decision. But that's not really what I'm talking about here. I do realize that those situations do occur. But what I'm really talking about in this video are those times when we make those split-second decisions, when we do have the time to make a more well-thought-out decision and make a more rational decision and weigh the consequences of the decision that we're trying to make. Now, sometimes we make split-second decisions that turn out to have really devastating consequences because we're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. But oftentimes, people can end up making split-second decisions that can have really damaging or devastating consequences to their lives because they are not in a rational state of mind and they're overly emotional. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that a lot of times when our emotions are heightened, when we're extremely angry, when we are really depressed, really sad, when we are super anxious, when we are very fearful, a lot of times we're not able to think rationally and clearly, and we can end up making those really damaging split-second decisions instead of being able to make a well thought out decision. And it can have devastating consequences to our lives. There's other times in our lives when we think that our decision is a small decision and not one that we really need to think about very much, and it seems innocent enough. So we make that split-second decision because it seems like an easy decision to make. And I will give you an example from my own life. Years ago when my boys were very young and I was a new single mom, I had just gotten divorced from their dad, and I was trying to find my way as a single mom. I lived in a duplex and I had a neighbor that lived downstairs. She volunteered to watch my boys whenever I needed help. She was always home because she was on disability, and she was probably like in her late 40s or something. And I thought, that's great, fantastic. I have a built-in babysitter. At the time, I really didn't have money to hire babysitters, but I had to work. I had other things going on. I was a runner at the time, so I left oftentimes just to go for runs, things like that. And so I said, great, I would love it if you could help me out. And from that time forward, she started watching my boys for me a little bit at a time here and there, and they seemed fine with her, and the arrangement seemed to be going fine until it got to a point where she actually reported my boys home alone. And I found it much later on. All those times when she was supposedly supposed to be babysitting and watching my boys, she was actually documenting that my boys were home alone. She ended up calling the police. CPS became involved, and I ended up losing my kids. I actually did a video on this. I will link it above and below if you do want to watch that story and hear what happened to me. It was quite a devastating time in my life, but that's an example of how sometimes we can make a decision about something that seems innocent enough, seems like it's not a big deal, seems like, okay, it's not a big deal, we don't need to think a lot about that. At the time, like I said, my neighbor seemed innocent enough, seemed nice enough, but I didn't really take the time to get to know her. I didn't look into her background. I found out much later after this incident occurred that she had suffered for a long time with mental illness and some other things as well, and that's why she did this to me. And had I taken the time to really look into her background, think about my decision more, and think about what I wanted to do and how well I knew her, this potential situation that I had that was devastating in my life could have been avoided. So sometimes when we make those innocent decisions that we don't think are life-changing, that it doesn't really matter that it's a spur-of-the-moment decision, it can end up having some very heavy and devastating consequences in our lives. Even the decisions we make when we think that, oh, you know what, I know I said that I was going to work out at the gym 4 times a week, but this week I'm really busy, so I'm gonna skip it. And I'm using that example because it comes naturally to me. I work as a personal trainer, and so I see this a lot. But when you think about an example like that, it takes a really, really long time to build a habit that's healthy, that you really want to create in your life, and it takes a very short time to destroy it. And I've seen this so many times in this particular context. So making those snap decisions instead of thinking through the long-term consequences, sometimes I have a hard time getting my clients to really think long-term. And even when people come in and they are really committed and they are really excited, I have to let them know you have to take some time off. You have to give your body a chance to rest. And I have to really remind them that they don't want to get injured in the gym when they're first starting out. They want to really give their body the appropriate and proper rest as they're starting out so that they don't overdo it when they're really excited. And you want to think about the long-term consequences of all the decisions you make and how it can potentially impact you in the long term. I find in my dealings with people that tend to act or react in an impulsive manner are people that tend to make these split-second decisions or these spur-of-the-moment decisions without giving them much thought, but oftentimes end up in a lot of drama or in a situation that they don't want, or they end up being unhappy. And a lot of times, really being able to step back and take a look at your situation and make a well thought out decision really comes with emotional and mental maturity, and that is something that we all really need to strive for. And sometimes we might be put in situations where people might pressure us to make a split-second decision. They might say, hey, I need your help with this. I need to know right now. Can you tell me now? I need this, or I want you to do this for me. I need to know right now. And for the last several years, when I'm confronted with situations like this, my rule for myself has always been, I always tell everyone that asks anything of me, I need to think about it, let me get back to you. And if somebody really pushes me for an immediate answer, typically my answer is no. I really like to be known as a person of my word, and when I say that I'm going to do something, I really like to follow through and do it. And I don't like the feeling of not being able to keep my word, and I don't like the feeling also of overcommitting myself. So I've gotten in the habit of saying no or saying let me get back to you so I can give myself the time to think things through. But getting back to what I was talking about before, when we are in that heightened emotional state, whatever that emotion may be, we need to find a way to calm ourselves down and come down to a more rational state of mind where we can really take some time to make a well thought out decisions. Typically, I find a really good way to do this is to sit down and maybe journal and write some things down. Maybe it's having that one friend or family member that you really trust, that you can call and you can vent to and you can ask advice to. Oftentimes with my clients, I find that if they have a really big decision they have to make, or they're really stressed, or they're really dealing with a heightened emotion that's negative, we sit down and I just allow them to talk about it out loud. A lot of times when you talk about it out loud, it really just allows you to think through it as you're talking about it, and it forces you to slow down and kind of process your emotion and your situation a little bit more. So I highly recommend that you try to do that. That's one of the ways that you can really avoid making these split-second decisions that can really have negative consequences. And I see this a lot when people become really angry, and it's a really good idea to give people space, to take space if you need it, if you have a heightened emotion, if you need time alone rather than being around people or talking to someone. You need to know that about yourself, and you need to take that time because it's going to really help you calm those emotions down and really process what you need to process so that you can make a well thought out decision that you can be comfortable with later. And this is really such a good example for everyone in your life, whether it be your children, your family, your friends, when they see you making well thought out decisions and stepping back and taking time to make decisions that you feel really secure in and really confident in and really comfortable with. That is such a good example to everyone around you and such a good inspiration to everyone around you, so that we can all walk away feeling much more confident and much better about the decisions we make, and we can live our life with fewer regrets moving forward. And isn't that something that we all want to do? So you guys, let me know in the comments below, are you a person that struggles with making split-second decisions, or are you really good at making well thought out decisions that you feel comfortable with later on? And if you are that kind of person, what are your strategies that you use to do this? I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video today and spending some of your precious time with me. I will look forward to seeing you in my next video, and remember to make your everyday ordinary life extraordinary.